This week on Breakaway Rail Talk, episode 18, Damon Thayer, former Kentucky State Senator and current advisor to the Thoroughbred Racing Initiative. Damon's going to tell us all about what went down in Florida land with regard to decoupling and also what that means to the future of Florida racing. Don't forget to subscribe below. Let's see what Damon has to say. So I'm really excited to bring in this next guest, who I consider now a friend, Damon Thayer, former Kentucky State Senator, current advisor to the Thoroughbred Racing Initiative, and some say Griffin Johnson's after photo. Damon, welcome to the show.
Hey, John, thanks for having me back. And what a week it was in Louisville last week. But we had an even bigger week in Tallahassee.
Yeah, so let's get right to it. It was as you like to say, the battle was won, but the war is still waging on. But let's tell our viewers and listeners exactly what went down in the closing moments of the state of Florida.
On Friday, which was technically the last day of the Florida legislature, we received a call making it official that decoupling is dead in the Florida legislature for now. The legislature was supposed to end on Friday, but they were unable to come to an agreement on the state budget. So it appears that they're going to extend the session and return to Tallahassee in the next week or two. But we have been told that decoupling will not be a part of the discussion. We do know that the House in Tallahassee was making entreaties right up until the end to try to cut a deal, a grand bargain, if you will, to try to include decoupling in some other type of gaming legislation. But we're very fortunate that our allies in the Florida State Senate put up the firewall and they said no to decoupling. And it's a major accomplishment for TRI. John, of course, you're the vice president of TRI, along with David O'Farrell, the president, and board members Aron Wellman, Barry Eisaman, and Mark Casse. I'm grateful to you guys for hiring me to help in this process. It's a big win. It's a big win. And I like to say, well, it's a John F. Kennedy quote. Victory has 1,000 fathers, failure is an orphan. And there are a lot of people who deserve credit for this win, because we started out, as you remember, John, way behind.
Yep.
And we were able to we weren't even in the gate when this race began. Right. But luckily, we slowly and steadily built a coalition that made up ground. And in a photo finish, we won this battle.
Yep. And Damon, just, again, educate the audience and educate me on this, because it seemed like all throughout the process, we were losing votes in the sense of, when it went before the subcommittees, it looked like that the decoupling was moving forward. When it went from, one group to the other, it looked like that we had lost. And then all of a sudden, like you mentioned before, we had a group of allies that came together and basically said, this doesn't make sense anymore for the state of Florida. So how does it go from, if it was a prize fight, we were losing rounds and we were losing on points, but at the end of the fight, we won in a TKO?
That's a really good analogy. That's basically what happened. And it was really demoralizing for the bill to pass in 3 different committees. And as you know, we had dozens of people show up, not only to wave in opposition to the bill, which is something you can do in Florida, but we had dozens of people speak against the bill. Mm-hmm. And we made a really good case that decoupling would destroy Florida's 33,000 horse industry jobs and its $3 billion economic impact. We made a great case, and we knew that we had legislators sympathetic to us, but yet they would vote yes on the bill. Mm-hmm. But we also knew that behind the scenes we were making progress, and you could see that we were whittling away at our opponent's argument. And, clearly, I'm going to call a spade a spade. Gulfstream Park, the Stronach Group, First Racing, they got a head start on us. They started making campaign contributions and developing their argument back during the latter half, maybe the last quarter of 2023. And then they dropped this thing on us on January 2nd. There was a secret deal back in the summer with the former Horsemen's group. There was a forged signature on the document.
Right.
And, once we started telling people about that, essentially what we did is we created confusion about the motives of the Stronach group, while also making a great case to why Florida's horse industry is as important as its ports, its citrus industry,
right,
collegiate athletics. And it really took a great team to do that. And I kept, if you remember, John, on a lot of our board calls, I reminded people that during the Revolutionary War, George Washington lost more
right,
battles than he won.
right.
But at the end of the war, he won 3 or 4 of those battles. The tide started to change, and he won the Revolutionary War. Now, I don't think we've won the war, but we have won a critical battle
Right.
Against decoupling and for the Florida horse industry. And you look at our TRI board, which we represented owners and trainers and breeders. We had the Tampa Bay horsemen, we had the new Gulfstream horsemen, we had OBS, we had people like Jenna Antonucci,
superstar.
Absolute. I mean, not only is she a superstar for being the first woman to win a Triple Crown race, but in her advocacy for the horse industry, I mean, 2 thumbs up, Jenna. We had people like Mandy Pope, come to the table. Nicole Pirat with Sally Horse Fans.
Yep. And Eric Hamelbeck. Eric came up strong.
Eric Hamelbeck and the National Horsemen's and Benevolent Protective Association, they were out front on this right from the start. And we borrowed their PR specialist, Eclipse Award winner Jenny Reese, who helped craft our message and run our social media with the assistance of Patty on your team. It was just a great team effort. And a couple of weeks ago, Mike Rapoli, he stepped up to the plate. TRI worked behind the scenes through Barry Eisaman with Governor Ron DeSantis. And then, as he is wont to do, Mike was appropriately very much upfront with Governor DeSantis. And it all started about 6 weeks ago when Governor DeSantis made a very pro-horse industry statement at a press conference. And then just a couple of weeks ago, we got him to OBS, and he went to the auctioneer stand, and he said, we are not going to give up Florida jobs for a Canadian-owned company.
Right.
That was a big, big win. And you could see maybe we were starting to turn the tide. And, it was a real team effort. I want to give Mike Rapoli credit. He's very close with Governor DeSantis. He was in the winner's circle Friday on Oaks Day with Mike when Mindframe won the stake at Churchill Downs. But all of these things sort of move together for the common good. Right. And it shows that when horse racing and breeding is willing, if the participants are willing to put aside their own individual agendas and work together as a coalition, we can accomplish great things.
And all Breakaway Rail Talks are brought to you by Arion Pedigrees. That's arion.co.nz. Why do I use Arion Pedigrees? Very glad you asked that question. It's simple. They have the most comprehensive, detail-oriented pedigrees out in the marketplace. I use it for anytime we're going to do projected matings, anytime we buy a new horse, I want to see what goes on 5, 6, 7, 8 generations back. I want to see how many overlaps there are, inbreeding, outbreeding, everything, all the crosses, everything in between, all through the various Arion pedigree products. So again, that's arion.co.nz. It is the one-stop shop for pedigrees. The first time in a long time that I can remember that people within the industry not only saw a larger threat that would cripple parts of the industry, but also came together and said, you know what, even though this isn't in my backyard, even though this isn't necessarily going to directly affect me, this is the right time for us to get together and put together a coalition and fight the good fight. we don't want to name names because some people donated time and energies and monies anonymously. But were you surprised? I was surprised. Were you surprised at how many farms in Kentucky and how many big breeders and how many deep pocket owners came together to kind of get behind this initiative?
It was really remarkable. And I am so grateful to the people who stepped up to the plate with no question. They said, we believe in what you're doing. We want to help. We're going to financially support you. We're going to, like the National HPPA, tremendous, what we call in politics, in-kind contribution of helping with their database so we could get messages to Florida legislators. Eric Hamelbeck gave a lot of his own time. This was a Florida-led initiative, but it had the support of the industry really across the country because Florida is important to the national ecosystem.
Yes.
We figured that 75 to 80% of horses in North America, no matter where they are bred, they get their early training and preparation to be racehorses in Ocala, and around Ocala. So you've got the whole pre-training and preparation. You've got sales. The Ocala 2-year-old sale is the biggest 2-year-old sale in the world. You've got breeding. You've got racing. And, those times I came to Tallahassee and saw all those people representing various sectors of the industry, including a lot of working horsemen and horsewomen who took time away from their jobs and their businesses to come to Tallahassee to tell their story. It was really gratifying to me.
No, absolutely. And the reason why also I bring that up, Damon, is because a lot of people have come to me over the past few weeks and said, are you nervous about pissing off, the Stronach group? Are you worried about retribution? And I keep saying to myself, I feel like we're fighting the good fight, which makes me, hit when my head hits the pillow, it makes me feel good. But we have some pretty deep pocketed, really, rich who's who in the billionaire club on our team also that don't want to necessarily be in the forefront of it, but have donated time and energy and money and influence to this. So it's not a matter of like David versus Goliath anymore, like it was when this fight was originally just with the Gulfstream horsemen. I mean, it's a Goliath versus Goliath fight.
I think that's a really good point, John. Look, it's clear that Belinda Stronach wants out of horse racing.
Right.
I mean, there is not a more clear past performance chart than hers. I mean, shut down racing in Oregon, shut down racing in San Francisco.
Maryland.
She's going to be out of Maryland in 2 years. We're not going to have racing at Laurel anymore.
Right.
Washington, D.C. market. And, clearly she wants out of Gulfstream. We wonder if the other shoe is going to drop with Santa Anita. We don't know what her next move is going to be, but I think she now knows that there is opposition to what she's trying to do at Gulfstream Park. I think we know we have a willing buyer. We know Mike Rapoli wants to buy Gulfstream Park and continue to operate it as a racetrack with a Racino. Now, we don't know if she's a willing seller or not, but I think she's been sent a pretty strong message. And I think what your viewers need to know is this thing was greased.
Yeah.
I mean, this was going to be over by February 1st until we came in and provided, the loyal opposition.
Right.
And we got organized quickly. We got a message together quickly. We hired one of the top lobbying firms in Tallahassee to work with other horse industry lobbyists that were part of our coalition. It was really gratifying because, our business, it can be very divisive. And look, I was there at the courtship, marriage, and divorce of the NTRA and Breeders' Cup.
Right.
I know what it's like to see a good thing destroyed because people were interested in protecting their slice of the pie instead of making the pie bigger. I was on the executive management team at Breeders' Cup in the early 2000s. I saw the whole thing. I saw 2 great ad campaigns with Lori Petty and Rip Torn and the best slogan that the horse industry's ever had. Go, baby, go.
Go, baby, go. Yeah, exactly.
I saw it all destroyed because the Pinkies Up crowd didn't think it was very cool. And, I'm sorry if I offend people, but
Right.
I saw it
Yeah.
firsthand.
Yep.
And that was a great opportunity that our industry squandered. So, I'm a little bitter about it because I saw it firsthand. And we all know the opportunities that have been missed because we don't have a national office that speaks
Right.
for us, does marketing for us, and does PR. But our TRI effort shows what we can do if we could all just coalesce
Yeah.
for the greater good.
Yep. Now, in your perfect world, okay, fast forward 2 years from now, where is racing in Florida?
Well, I hate to speak because I live in Kentucky and there's a
Right.
lot of people in Florida who are going to have a say on this. And so my first answer is I believe that TRI, Thoroughbred Racing Initiative, we have earned the right to be the convener of the discussion of what's going to happen in the future of Florida's horse industry. I think we've earned that.
Right.
Because without us, this bill was going to pass.
Yep.
So as Damon Thayer, a marketing guy who has worked at racetracks and worked at the Breeders' Cup, I believe, number one, we have to save some form of racing in South Florida because Miami is one of our most important cities. It has a huge horse racing tradition, and we make fans to bet on advanced deposit wagering, to go to racetracks, to bet at simulcast facilities, to buy into horse partnerships with the live racing experience. And we have to have some sort of live racing experience in South Florida.
Right.
I would hope that we could figure out a way to make that work at Gulfstream Park.
Yeah.
If we can't, I'll just throw out there what we've heard. Could we bring back Hialeah on a lease deal to run a boutique meet at Hialeah? We know that there's some people who think we should race at Palmettos.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand it's a great training facility, but we also know that when Frank Stronach did the deal to build Palmettos, he signed covenants with the local governments to keep it from becoming a live racing facility. And my guess is if that effort were tried, the locals would fight it.
Yep. And that's a deep-pocketed community. It's
a deep-pocketed community. That's exactly right. It's very, very, very wealthy area, high property values. There's talk of, well, could we build a new racetrack on land that's less expensive north of Miami-Dade and Broward? I mean, those are all things that are talked about. I would hope we could preserve and maybe improve Tampa Bay Downs, the purses at Tampa.
Yep.
There's also talk of, could we race part of the year in Ocala?
Mm-hmm.
Like Lexington, Ocala is a horse crazy community. Could we turn OBS or Frank Stronach's Adena Springs or some other training facility into a live racing facility part of the year?
Right.
All these things are on the table. And, I think with the coalition we have that has horsemen from both tracks and breeders, owners, trainers, van companies, veterinarians, all of whom are affected by these decisions, I think we can come up with a solution. But the legislature, they're waiting for us. We promised them that we would come with a solution, a legislative solution, and we've got to work collaboratively in a good faith effort through the rest of this year to come to them with a legislative solution that would set up the parameters. And we can't just make our decision in a vacuum.
Right.
Horsemen are affected, breeders are affected, sales companies are affected, veterinarians, horse transport companies, as well as the working men and women. We've got to look holistically and come up with a solution. And I hope that we can have a popular, successful race meet at Gulfstream Park for a long, long time. But I don't know what the future is. I just know that we've killed the decoupling bill. We bought ourselves some time, and hopefully we can negotiate a collaborative future that's good for all participants. We're going to have to change and adapt. There's no doubt.
No question about it.
I think there's a way to do it that's beneficial for everybody. I'd love to give everybody a win. I'd love to give Belinda Stronach a win.
Mm-hmm.
She clearly wants a pathway out of horse racing. We just need to do it on a better timetable than pull the plug right now on decoupling. I think we can give legislators a win. Next year is an election year in Florida. We need to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can give them a win going into their election cycles. And then the most important thing is we give the industry a win so it can continue to support those jobs and that economic impact that we've been talking about for the last 4.5 months.
Yep. No, I think that that's well said. And Damon, if you'll consider this, a compliment that is well deserved, we would not be in the place that we are right now without you being a part of this team and without you leading us through the battlefield known as legislation. I mean, it is, politics is foreign to me. It's a whole nother language as far as I'm concerned. And you were able to get this group on the right path and keep a very varied group of horsemen, business people, and you mentioned a number of individuals and groups, but it's unprecedented. This has never happened before in the history of modern racing that everyone was going to get. So I'm glad to hear that we have other options, for 2 years down the road and 2.5 years down the road. And I'm going to pivot for a second. And you didn't know I'm doing this, but the other thing that's going to happen 2.5 years from now is that this bottle of bourbon is going to be 10 years old. And that is when I'm going to open it up. Tell our audience, for you, if you will, why Kentucky Senator Bourbon is such a better brand of bourbon and why they should consider this for their tasting rooms.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for your kind words. Look, you guys brought me into this fight. It's not a fight that we would have chosen, but it is a fight worth fighting and a fight worth winning. And it's not what I foresaw doing when I retired from the Kentucky State Senate, but I'm glad you guys brought me into the fray. I am fortunate in that I speak horse racing vernacular and I speak legislative vernacular. Not many people can do that. And so I appreciate you guys seeing that it was in my wheelhouse, and it's an honor and a privilege to be a part of the group. And it's just about keeping this coalition together and moving forward. Now, on your pivot, thanks. In my other life, I am the co-founder of Kentucky Senator Bourbon, each release named after a U.S. Senator from Kentucky. Our new release is named for John Edwards, not the North Carolina John Edwards, but Kentucky's second U.S. Senator.
The reputable John Edwards, right?
Yeah, the OG. The OG John Edwards. Not that guy from North Carolina who ran for vice president and president, I think. Each release is named for a U.S. Senator. You can learn more at our website, KentuckySenatorBourbon.com. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Right now, we're only distributed in Kentucky or the Jack Rose Dining Saloon in Washington, D.C., but we are available online at bourbonoutfitter.com, bourbonoutfitter.com if you live outside of Kentucky. All of our bourbon is aged a minimum of 6 years because that's the length of a U.S. Senate term. It's always bottled at 107 proof, which is the traditional barrel proof for a lot of big name brands like Weller, Antique, Pappy Van Winkle, etc. It's great Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, and we're working on getting distribution into other states like Florida, Illinois, Louisiana, and we're working on both North and South Carolina. Yep. So we're a small but growing company, and in my new life, I work on horses and bourbon. It's a pretty good gig.
Those are two of the best, outsourcing that you guys have. The exports that you guys have are horses, bourbon, and now former state senators that are ready to kick ass at a moment's notice. So Damon Thayer, I can't thank you enough for spending time with me and explaining to the audience exactly what went down in the 11th hour and 58th minute of Florida legislation. And let's keep up the good fight. And I know that you're going to be back on our show when we have more news to report. But thank you. Genuinely, thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you for the opportunity and the opportunity to update your viewers too. I know people are really focused in on this effort, and this is the greatest sport played outdoors, and I'm passionate about it, and I just appreciate the opportunity to be a part of an effort to help save horse racing in Florida and wherever else I'm called into duty. I want to make sure horse racing remains a national sport. If you look at the numbers coming out of the Derby this weekend, handle up, corporate sponsorship up, TV ratings through the roof.
Yep.
My 23-year-old daughter texted me from Nashville on Derby Day saying, Dad, all my favorite influencers are at the Derby. Of course, you had Griffin Johnson as part of your group,
Right.
with Sandman. What a delightful young man. And we're really, it's really, really cool to have people like him advocating on behalf of our sport and our industry.
Absolutely. Damon Thayer, special advisor to the Thoroughbred Racing Initiative. If you want to learn more about what we do and how you can help, go to thoroughbredracinginitiative.com. Damon, I can't thank you enough, and let's keep fighting the good fight, buddy.
All right, everybody, have a great week. Let's rock on to the rest of the Triple Crown.